A chocolate out of nowhere. What a blessing. Imagine, my dear children, if you had a drum, which would have been a magic drum, and just by playing the drum, you would get food items. Could be chocolates or something which could be your favorite. How would life be? My dear children, welcome to the second chapter of English literature for the month of June. I'm sure it must be so easy for you now to guess the name of the chapter. What do you think is the name of the chapter, my dear children? Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Yes. The name of our chapter is The King's Magic Drum. And here is Pratik sir welcoming you to yet another session of English literature for your class 5. Before I get started with this interesting story, let me introduce some of the characters. Have you heard about this country in Africa called Nigeria? What do you know about Nigeria, my dear children? How many of you are interested in playing football? Did you know that Vibin sir is a fantastic footballer besides being a music teacher? Well, football is all about agility, perseverance, and strength. Talking about Nigeria, now Nigeria is a country in the African continent, and this country has produced a league of famous footballers over the years. I'll tell you a fact which will definitely surprise you. Small children in African continents are trained intensely to become footballers in future. We play football with the balls that you have seen, right, in India. However, how many of you have seen coconuts? Aren't coconuts very hard? What could probably happen to your leg if I ask you to kick a coconut barefoot right now? You would have a bleeding toe, I'm sure. But children in African continents are taught to play football in their childhood with coconuts. So just imagine what would happen to their legs when they grew up. Their legs became like the pillars which were made of cement and bricks. It was so hard and strong that the African football teams used to conquer the world of football. So I've given you an insight about Nigeria, about Nigerian football, because I am a football fanatic. Back then, when Nigeria was ruled by the kings, in history there was one such occasion when the king of Calabar was Ephraim Duke. What's the name? Ephraim. Ephraim Duke. Now, my dear children, before I get started with the chapter or the story, let me introduce you to some of the characters in this story. The first character is Ephraim Duke. Ephraim Duke was the king of Calabar. Calabar is a place in Nigeria. Ephraim's wife, that means the queen, the king's wife's name was Ikwar Eden. Ikwar, Ikwar Edem, Edem, right? So you have been introduced to two characters, the king and his wife. The third character is our central character. The story revolves around this particular character, and that is the magic drum. Okay, and the fourth and the final character, which is very important in the context of the story, is a tortoise. Have you seen a tortoise? It has got a shell on its back, right? Okay, great. I hope you remember the rabbit and the turtle story. Yeah, so you know what a tortoise is. Now you're going to see the photographs of all these characters. Now that I have introduced you to all the characters of the story, and since you have already guessed the name of the chapter, let me now brief you about some of the important vocabulary, new words that you are going to learn in the perspective of this chapter. The first word is possess. P-O-S-S-E-S-S. Possess is to own something. For example, if I say that this is a sanitizer, then this is a sanitizer which I possess. Okay, so this is my sanitizer. Possess. Second one is palavar, not Malabar. Palavar. P-A-L-A-V-E-R. Palaver means unnecessary trouble. So we can say that because of his uncouth or rude behavior, he landed in a palaver. Okay, so these are new words which you can use to make sentences, my dear children. Third word you have already heard, triumph. T-R-I-U-M-P-H. Triumph means victory or accomplishment. You can also say that triumph is some sort of achievement. Fourth, custom. Okay, custom means a trend, a pattern, which society follows. For example, it's a custom for the Christians to attend mass on Sundays, isn't it? Similarly, it's also a custom for many people in the Hindu religion to shave their heads when they go to the temple of Lord Tirupati Balaji, which is in Andhra Pradesh. Okay, so this is how, whenever you come across a new word or find a new word, please try to make some sentences. You'll never forget the word at all. Fifth word, profusion. You are going to find these words when you read through the chapter. Profusion is something in large quantity. Okay, when you produce something, or so when something comes out in large quantity, that's called profusion. So from this word profusion, we get that word profusely, right? So you can say that when the boy fell down and injured his head, he started bleeding profusely. Got it? So profusely or profusion means in large quantities. You will come across a very unconventional word, which is not a word in English, but then it's a word in your chapter. Juju. What is it? Juju. Okay. So juju is basically a spell. Okay. It's like a magical spell. So remember the fairy with the magic wand, and then some stars used to come out and some magic used to happen. So they have used the word for that magic. It's called juju because the drum is magical. Okay. It has got magical superpowers. You saw that when I was playing the drum, I got a chocolate from nowhere, right? So, juju. Juju means magic, spell. Right. So, we are done with the characters of the story alongside the vocabulary. Now, let me start the story. So, as you all know, the king had a magic drum back then in a place called Calabar. Name of the king was Ephraim. Ephraim was a peace-loving king. He believed in making friends with the neighboring kingdoms, and he didn't like war like other kings. So he was a peace-loving monarch. His kingdom was prosperous, and he had a magic drum. That drum had magical superpowers. For example, when the king used to play the drum, he used to get superb and delicious food items served on his plate. Why not look at the photograph yourself? So children, did you see that the king has his wife and daughter, and the entire dining table is full of delicacies, ambrosial cuisines. Ambrosial means delicious. Okay, so whenever there was the probability of any other neighboring king attacking Calabar, Ephraim used to invite his enemies, and he used to feed them. He used to throw a feast. He used to play the drum, and the kings were fed sumptuously, okay, to their heart's content. They were fed with so many ambrosial cuisines, my dear children, that they used to make friendship with Ephraim. So there was no probability of war, and all the people in the kingdom were very happy. However, there is no dearth, dearth, or shortage of jealous people. Isn't it, my dear children? There will be jealous people around. And when the people in the world came to know about this magic drum, there were jealous people who wanted to lay their hands on this magic drum and enjoy the benefits like the king. However, the king never parted with his drum. On one such occasion, it so happened that the king's wife, that is Equor Edom, went to a river to bathe their child, a girl child. So the girl had a curse, and the queen thought that even that river, the water of the river was so holy that if she could baptize the girl with the water of that holy river, all her sins or the curse would be washed away. On the top of a palm tree was seated Mr. Tortoise. There was a tortoise which was there on top of the tree, and the tortoise was actually cutting nuts for lunch. Okay? And the tortoise was having a plan that he would be having nuts for lunch. Just beneath that tree, the queen and her daughter were standing. It so happened that in the process, one such nut fell down. Okay? And the daughter found the nut. So she's just a child, right? When she saw the nut, she was definitely feeling hungry, so she wanted to eat it up. And the queen said, fine. The queen actually thought that this nut must have fallen from the tree due to gravity, okay? But she never had any clue that this nut belonged to the tortoise, which was sitting on top of the tree. When everything happened, the tortoise got a plan. The tortoise thought that if I accuse this lady of stealing, and if I go and complain this to the king, who's her husband, then I might get a compensation. Okay? So he came down from the tree and he started accusing. He started complaining that that was my lunch which you have given to your child. How could you have done that, being the king's wife? And I'm such a poor tortoise, I just feed on nuts. You didn't even spare that nut for me? The queen started assuring the tortoise that, well, It was not done intentionally or purposely. I thought that the nut must have fallen from the tree, and she's only a little child. Will you shout on a child for taking a nut away? The tortoise said, I'm not letting you go this easily. I wish to go and see the king and complain about this. This is exploitation. So next moment, the tortoise reached the king's palace and asked for the compensation. So the king asked, what do you want? Tell me, how can I compensate you? So he already had made up the plan that I am going to take the king's magical drum. So there was no other option left. The king parted with his magical drum, and you can see that in this photograph. You saw in the photograph that the king gave away his magical drum to the tortoise, but there's a twist in the story. The king did not tell the tortoise what would happen if anybody possessing the magic drum would cross a tree or a stick which is lying on the ground. Now let me tell you what would happen in case if you possess the magic drum and cross a stick. If you do that, okay, I'll keep it as a surprise. I won't tell you right now. You have to listen to this entire video to get to know what would happen. Now it so happened that the tortoise was very happy. He came back home and he surprised his wife, Mrs. Tortoise, and the young ones, telling that we are not going to go hungry at all anymore because I have got the king's magic drum. So I just need to play the drum and we will get all the eatables on our table. We won't have to eat nuts anymore. The wife of the tortoise, Mrs. Tortoise, was definitely very happy. And it so happened that they used to play the drum whenever they used to eat whenever they wished to eat, and they were served, because it's a magic drum with a lot of power. The news spread like wildfire, and very soon the tortoise threw a party, a feast. The tortoise being an animal, a lot of wild animals were also invited from the forests. So it was not only humans that were invited for the feast, even animals were invited, and it was a feast. But many of them were very apprehensive, as in they were uncertain to go or not to go, because apparently they felt that the tortoise was a poor one. What feast would he throw? But later, when the animals and people joined for the feast, the tortoise did play the drum and they were served with excellent food. So that news spread across the entire city, and other people thought that next time when the tortoise throws a party, they are all going to go. So they decided likewise. The king also came. The king of Calabar, he also joined in for the party. Now one day it so happened that the tortoise was traveling with the drum on his back, and he was in his own world. So he was lost. And there was a stick lying on the ground, and the tortoise didn't see that stick. And he crossed that stick. Watch it for yourself in this particular photograph. The moment he crossed the stick, the juju was gone, my dear children. Did you see that juju? That yellow halo, HALO, right? It's a beam of light which was going out from the drum. So the magical superpower went away. So every coin, my dear children, has got two sides. If there are benefits, there are disadvantages also. And you should not exploit something for your own vested interest or selfish purposes. But the tortoise never attended Divine Providence School. So the tortoise was so selfish and brazen with his attitude that he became very lazy. He thought that why do I need to go for work when I can play the drum and get whatever I wish to eat? Is that the right attitude, my dear children? No. But that is how people are. When you get something for free, you forget the merit of that particular thing. So children, as you could see in the photograph, the tortoise crossed the stick, went home and dozed off. So the tortoise went off to sleep. Nothing happened then until next morning when the tortoise woke up and his wife and the children started making tortoise-like sounds because they were very hungry, like every single morning. So the tortoise had nothing to worry. Why? Because he had the king's magical drum. So the tortoise started playing it. Now let me tell you the climax of the story. The king didn't tell the tortoise what would happen if the person or the animal owning that drum crossed a stick. That was the curse. In case if the possessor of the drum crossed a stick, the magical powers would go away right then and there. The drum would be an useless one. And in case if you play the drum after crossing a stick, there will be 300 tribal men who would appear from nowhere and start beating you with a stick. And that is what happened to the tortoise. When he played that drum on that particular morning, after having crossed the stick with the drum, food items didn't come, my dear children, but tribals came out of nowhere. 300 tribesmen came with sticks and started hitting the tortoise and his family. He was so badly beaten up that he cried to himself and said, "Why me? Why did I get beaten up? When I threw a party and fed so many people, why is God not so kind on me that he sent 300 people to beat me up? Oh, it hurts," right? And then he decided that he would give the drum back to the king and let others suffer. That is how our story ends, my dear children. So what do you think could be the moral of this story? Very good. And the moral could be not to be jealous about what others have, but to be satisfied with what God has given you, with what you have. Because there are many people who don't even have that, my dear children. So you should be happy with what you have and should be thankful for every single day. Okay? So with that, our story is over. The king's magic drum, my dear children. So in the next video, I'm going to meet all of you with the question answers. And the notes and the mind map will be shared with you in your WhatsApp group. Now let me brief you about our assignment. So the question is very simple. I want you to write the answer in not more than 20 words only. How many words, my dear children? 20. Very good. The question is, what would you want if you got the magic drum from King Ephraim? What would you want if you got the magic drum from King Ephraim, who was the king of Calabar? You need to think and write the answer in not more than 20 words and submit it in your school email ID, the class 5 email ID, which has been created exclusively for you people. All the communication should be officiated in the class 5 email ID. Very good. With that, our second chapter of English literature is over, my dear children. I would want all of you to go through the chapter thoroughly. In case if you have any doubts, please feel free to ask when you have the interaction session in WhatsApp for your class for English literature. Until then, this is Pratik sir saying goodbye. Stay home, stay safe, and continue learning. I would also like to thank all the parents for taking time out of your busy schedule and helping the kids in the process. God bless you all.